Welcome to Fall 2020. I'm Gail F. Baker, Vice President and Provost, and it is my pleasure to have the opportunity to be with you virtually today to celebrate the new academic year. I would like to begin by acknowledging our President, Dr. James T. Harris III, our senior leadership team, our deans, and of course, our esteemed faculty. Let me state the obvious. This year has been difficult. We cannot, nor should not, downplay the challenges of this pandemic. What a turbulent time of transition it has been. As you can imagine, this is not how we envision the Fall 2020 Faculty Convocation. And yet, despite all that is happening, it is critical that we do pause to recognize your stellar work in the midst of great turmoil. To our faculty, we honor you. We learn from you. I don't know how else I can begin this convocation experience other than expressing my gratitude for your strength and your resilience, for your faith in our educational mission, and for the courage of confronting the deep, dark challenges of this pandemic so you could provide a better future for our students. You safeguard our mission. You stand with our community, and now, together, we stand at the threshold of change, an unusual semester, a different outlook, a new beginning, a new way of living. This year, we will continue to lift our voices and come together with a relentless sense of hope that is the hallmark of our academic enterprise. I began this faculty convocation with optimism. I speak on behalf of everyone at USD when I say we cannot wait to welcome you fully back to campus again. A time when you can welcome our newest community members, our new faculty in real life, in person. Because these new faculty, like our entire community, are now bonded by this monumental experience, starting a career during one of the most challenging and uncertain times in history. And I encourage you to reach out and welcome them to the USD community. Yes, we will continue to face setbacks, but there will also be opportunities to do things creatively, to do things differently. Remarkably, this moment cries out for the united sense of community mission and a faith and a vision that understands how the hallmarks of a USD education will play out in a post-pandemic world. Standing together, we unite in great company to navigate our way toward a truth that is holistic, healing, and just. With the understanding that we all begin this new chapter on a horizon that requires all of us to look back and grieve what has been lost, and live with the tension of looking forward into the unknown, with fear and even excitement for the experiences that are yet to come. Life presents us with these defining moments, the in-between, where we are and where we are not. And we stand on the threshold of this brave new beginning. I wish you all the best success, the courage to continue to overcome the barriers of this moment, and the patience to bravely move forward through your personal transitions here at USD and beyond, knowing that you are not alone, that the entire faculty, staff, administration are here on this journey to help each other cross over into the new, recognizing the work, the service, and an understanding that even without recognition, we would show up and do the work anyway because we value it. It has called us. I am grateful to all of you, our community of scholars, for how you continue to come together in a time of uncertainty. And today, we honor those colleagues who, through exemplary work and dedication, inspire the rest of us. To help us reflect on this moment, I'd like to first introduce Dr. Florence M. Gilman, Professor of Biblical Studies, Department of Theology and Religious Studies.
O Creator God, whom we address by many different names, as we open this faculty convocation, we turn first to bow our heads before you. In looking to the year ahead, we seek courage, energy, and wisdom. We begin our coming together in a somber mood as we remember those who so cruelly died on September 11, 2001, exactly 19 years ago today. We grieve also for all those who have died since because of what happened that day. Today, we also stand amid the deaths of the hundreds of thousands across our world who have died in the pandemic. And, tragically, the pervasive, deadly racism we have yet to overcome severely challenges us as well. Please grant us the insight, will, and wisdom to not lose courage in the struggle against all that is deadly. Yet a somber mood is not all we bring to this unusual virtual academic gathering. There is much positivity we also acknowledge before you today. We rejoice with those who will be honored here for their fine contributions, and we are grateful for the upbeat, enthusiastic spirits many of our students bring to us. Just 4 weeks into the semester, we have already had many screen encounters with young people determined to carry on and make the most of their education. When they could have found something else to do this year, they nevertheless came to us. Those students, the ones who care, are a blessing in the midst of our frustrations and mundane attempts to master remote teaching. O Holy One, who knows our vacillating feelings, ranging across the deeply sad memories of 9/11, the current struggles to overcome a pandemic, and embittering racist hatred, and yet those uplifting encounters with some students. Please inspire us with hopeful energy, determination, and courage as we move ahead, now and always. Amen.
Now it is my great pleasure to share the achievements of 9 outstanding members of the faculty of the University of San Diego. Because this convocation is virtual, we have prepared formal photographs of President Harris presenting the awards to our faculty. Additional information about the awards and the honorees can be found in your virtual program, posted to the Faculty Convocation website. First, we will recognize the university professors. From the College of Arts and Sciences, we honor Professor Ray M. Robertson Anderson, Professor and Chair of the Department of Physics and Biophysics. Next, from the College of Arts and Sciences, we honor Kristen Mara McCabe, Professor of Psychological Sciences. Now, from the School of Law, we honor Miranda Perry Fleischer, Professor of Law and Co-Director of Tax Programs at the University of San Diego School of Law. Next, from the School of Leadership and Education Sciences, we honor Reyes Quesada, Professor and Chair of the Department of Learning and Teaching. Next, from the School of Business, we honor Phil Su, Associate Professor of Finance in the School of Business. Next, we recognize our Stieber professors. From the College of Arts and Sciences, we honor Aaron Sol Gross, Associate Professor in the Department of Theology and Religious Studies. Now, from the School of Business, we honor Daniel Lin, Associate Professor of Operations and the Department Chair of Operations, Supply Chain Management, and Information Technology Management. Next, we recognize the Herzog Endowed Scholar. This year's honoree is Mary Jo Wiggins, Professor of Law, School of Law. Finally, we recognize the School of Law's Class of 1975 Endowed Professor. This year's honoree is Jean Teresa Ramirez, Professor of Law, School of Law. Congratulations to the outstanding faculty and their marvelous achievements. Now, I would like to invite our president, Dr. James T. Harris III, to offer his greeting and remarks.
Thank you, Provost Baker. William Haidt, Mary Jo Henning, Jim Johnson, Bob Henriksen, Brian Tierney, Fern Willits. These names likely have no meaning to anyone listening today, but to me, these are the teachers and professors, as well as the scholars and researchers who deeply influenced my life. They made me stretch intellectually, challenged my positions and my values, and set a standard of academic achievement for me to aspire. Some became lifelong mentors and friends. Others stepped in and out of my life at exactly the right time, and my life is better for it. I mention these remarkable people in my life because today we celebrate the accomplishments of our faculty at this opening convocation of the academic year. Each of the people we honor in this program are serving for our students what the faculty I named in my life serve for me. You are an inspiration to our students. You are challenging teachers and world-class scholars. Our teacher-scholar model is alive and well at USD, and you are the reason. I have yet, in my 5 years at USD, been at an alumni gathering where some alum hasn't told me a story about how a particular faculty member at USD changed their life for the better. Today we honor you, our faculty colleagues, who have distinguished themselves across myriad disciplines, and we are a better institution today because of each of you. As president of USD, I wish to congratulate our award winners and say how grateful I am for your dedication and service to this institution, as well as your continued commitment to excellence in your teaching, research, and service. Earlier, Provost Baker recognized each of you personally, and she also welcomed our newest faculty members who are beginning their career, which no doubt will build the reputation of USD through their teaching, scholarship, and service. Welcome to you all. Each year when I deliver my opening convocation speech, I usually present information on the university's financial health, our latest awards and recognitions, and I attempt to bring to your attention the issues that we are currently facing and will need immediate attention. This year I've decided to alter my normal format and take a line out of our vision statement to instead address humanity's urgent challenges, and more specifically address 3 challenges that have and continue to impact USD directly as an engaged contemporary Catholic university. Those 3 urgent challenges are the Catholic Church in the aftermath of the clergy sexual abuse crisis, the ongoing impact of COVID-19 pandemic, and the stain of racism on our nation and our need to address systemic racism in our country, the Catholic Church, and on our own campus. In the fall of 2018, you may recall that I commissioned a task force to address the clergy sexual abuse crisis that had recently returned to the news following the publication of some deeply disturbing reports through several states' attorneys' general offices. The task force had 3 objectives: provide the USD community with information on the crisis, identify resources internally and beyond, and explore recommendations for the best practices to live out our mission and values as an engaged contemporary Catholic university. The task force convened throughout 2018-19 academic year and presented me with their recommendations in the summer of 2019. The task force made 4 recommendations: to create and maintain a public website at USD on the Church in crisis, create ongoing programming and support research on the topic, conduct an independent investigation of our findings, and to create and maintain a culture of transparency and accountability around this topic. I've accepted all 4 of these recommendations. The task force thought it was imperative to conduct a thorough investigation of any accusations made against clergy who were employed by USD. When I received the report in July of 2019, I asked both HR and our University Council to review the reports and conduct an internal investigation of the findings of the task force. When our new General Counsel, Tom Skinner, arrived in February of this year, he hired an external firm, and then COVID-19 extended the timing of the investigation. After both an internal investigation and a separate independent investigation made by outside counsel, we found 12 cases of credible accusations associated with people who at some time in their career were employed on our campus. They did identify 1 case that allegedly took place on our campus, and it did not involve minors. When the individual in question was identified at the time, he was investigated by the university and relieved of his duties. Since we do not keep personnel records longer than 7 years, we don't know the exact date, but do know it happened prior to 2001. We will publish a list of the 12 people who were credibly accused on the Church in Crisis webpage of our website, along with information that both investigations yielded. Recognizing that more allegations may yet occur, we will continue to update the website with information as the crisis unfolds, including any other credible allegations that may surface in the future. USD remains committed to cultivating a culture of transparency and accountability, as well as a preferential option for victims of abuse. To that end, a fund managed by the Office of the Provost and the Office for Mission will be available for departments on campus who would like to explore how we heal from this crisis in their programming or research. I wish to thank the members of the Clergy Abuse Task Force, especially the Tri-Chairs, Steve Conroy, Mark Peters, and Aaron Bishop, for their leadership of the task force and for their pursuit of transparency. I'm also grateful for the work of Nikki Velos and Tom Skinner for their work with the outside firm in producing the final report. As I mentioned before, the task force report and the final investigative report will be available on the Church in Crisis website. Last Friday, Tom Skinner and I shared the results with the Executive Committee of the Board of Trustees. As a university community, we share in the deep sadness and moral outrage at the details of the sexual abuse of both minors and vulnerable adults associated with this dark chapter in the history of the Catholic Church. And we will continue to monitor new cases that emerge and update our website as a resource to the campus community. We will continue to pray for all victims of sexual abuse. The second urgent challenge facing humanity that has disrupted our lives in ways we could never have imagined before has been the global COVID-19 pandemic. I wish to begin by thanking our faculty and administrative colleagues who have spent long hours this summer to help us prepare for this academic year. In the spring, Provost Baker initiated a set of university-wide task forces to prepare for multiple scenarios that might present themselves this fall. We recognized from its inception that our 6-point plan for reopening this fall was ambitious, and while we always knew that epidemiology and spread of COVID-19 would dictate what we could do, our vice presidents, the deans, the faculty, and our administrative colleagues across the university created a set of protocols and options that are serving us well today and will likely become even more important when we reach the spring semester. As you know, on July 29th, following state and local health guidelines, we announced we would start our undergraduate semester on August 17th with only remote learning, and that only a few students with special circumstances would be allowed to live on campus. 1 month later, on August 28th, based again on state and local guidelines, we made the decision to pivot to another model with limited in-person classes and opening our residence halls to students to live in single occupancy rooms starting on September 21st. Starting next week, we'll offer very limited in-person classes or different modes of instruction across campus, and approximately 700 students will be living on campus. In other words, we'll be at about 30% capacity in the residence halls. Having made that decision and provided faculty and students with multiple options for teaching, living, and learning, we are now prepared to say that we will remain in this mode until the end of the semester. We have put in place testing, tracing, and temperature checking protocols that we believe follow the latest science on how best to mitigate the spread of COVID-19 on our campus. We know that we cannot expect to complete the semester without people being exposed to the disease, and if we are like any other campus community in America, we unfortunately will have people who will become infected. The advantage of waiting until later in the semester to begin in-person instruction and inviting students to live on campus is that we have benefited from the experiences of other campuses across the country that opened before us, and we have tried to learn from their experiences and adjust our protocols accordingly. Please know that we monitor the spread of the disease in San Diego County and in our campus community, and are in the process of developing a website for anyone to access the latest available information. We know COVID-19 is not going to magically disappear overnight, and that we will continue to feel the impact of the disease on our campus long after we even have a vaccine. We will need to continue to be vigilant about staying up to date on the best practices in mitigating risk on our campus, and learn from our experiences this semester so that we can hopefully return to a more routine campus environment in the spring. While I fully understand the desire to return to some new normal, I believe that it is a fantasy to think we will return to anything normal soon, and in fact, it would also be a mistake to do so. We have learned much already about who we are in the face of an urgent challenge. We learned that we are a resilient and tenacious campus, capable of weathering even the most difficult storms. We've also learned new skills, whereas just 18 months ago, there was a majority of our faculty colleagues who would have never thought they would be teaching remotely or entirely online. Today, every professor at USD has had to adjust, and most have become quite facile and proficient with this new form of pedagogy. And many of our colleagues have said it will likely become another arrow in their quiver of teaching and instruction as they devise future coursework. We've also learned that in addition to teaching remotely, we can also work remotely. While in some fields and lines of work it will still not be possible to work from home, we have discovered that many people are equally productive working remotely, and that should open new doors for us and provide new options for USD to consider creative ways we can accommodate the changing demands of our workforce and create perhaps a healthier work-life balance for our employees. One long-term impact of COVID-19 will be the financial ramifications on our campus for years to come. I reported months ago that the disruption COVID-19 caused in the spring semester cost the university more than $17 million. Thanks to the quick action by our provosts, deans, vice presidents, and other budget managers, we were able to meet that financial crisis by cutting our budgets. I'm happy to report that we did end the last fiscal year in the black. Unfortunately, our financial troubles did not end with the past fiscal year. In the spring, I shared with the campus that we were predicting a shortfall of more than $31 million this year alone. This was based primarily on a projected decline in enrollment at both the undergraduate and the graduate levels. Unfortunately, our prediction turned out to be true, but our housing numbers are much lower than anticipated. Today, we project we will fall short of the projected $31 million and likely be closer to a $36 million deficit for the fiscal year 2021. And that's only so long as there's no more disruption and students return to campus and the residence halls in the spring. If we have a similar drop in enrollment and housing in the spring as we have seen this fall, our projected budget deficit could climb higher than $45 million. So you may ask, how do we plan to make up the gap? To answer that, I want to remind everyone that our commitment for working in this environment has remained the same. We have commitment to our students to fulfill our mission and deliver the highest quality of instruction, whether in person or remotely. To that point, we have heard very positive feedback from our student leaders that our faculty have risen to the challenge of enhancing learning environments online. We've also remained committed to the health and safety of our campus. We have implemented a robust set of testing protocols on campus which will require regular testing for all students, either attending class on campus or living in residence halls. We are requiring everyone to wear face coverings in public and inside buildings, and we will require daily temperature checks. We also lowered the density of students in the residence hall so that all students have access to their own bathrooms. We have provided faculty the option to teach on campus or remotely, and students have the same option. We've also kept the density of the rest of our workforce as low as possible, and have asked employees who can work from home to do so. Please remember that we have prioritized maintaining jobs with health benefits over other cost-cutting measures. You may have heard that many of our peer universities have either laid off or furloughed hundreds of employees, including faculty in some cases. We've made a concerted effort to avoid this and keep the reduction of jobs to a minimum. We view this as part of our commitment to our Catholic mission. In the next few weeks, we will be announcing other cost-saving measures. Of course, if we are faced with an even more dramatic reduction in revenue, we will need to take even more draconian steps. In spite of these difficulties, I remain optimistic that if each of us continue to sacrifice at this moment, we will be able to save more jobs with health benefits in the future. I know this level of transparency and candor can cause anxiety for people, but I've always felt we can achieve better results if we know exactly what we are facing. Now I'd like to turn my attention to a third topic that is even more insidious and widespread than COVID-19, and that is racism in America. Now is the time for America to atone for slavery and the dehumanization of Black Americans. This will require our nation to address the truth of the long-term impact of racism on our country and meaningfully work to reconcile those damages. Racism, bigotry, white supremacy, and all forms of hatred have no place in America, and especially no place on our campus. While every university in America is a microcosm of society and has its own unique aspects of how racism plays out on its campus, we must take a hard look at institutional racism here at USD and address our own unique culture. We can no longer hide behind antiquated practices, procedures, and protocols, and we must take a careful look at everything from how we attract, hire, and retain talented faculty and staff of color, to our admission practices, to our procurement practices, and to implementing new protocols for reporting and responding to racist actions on our campus. This work is everyone's work, not just the senior leadership or the deans. It is the responsibility of every academic department and every faculty member to do more than just promote inclusion, diversity, and social justice. We have an obligation to go one step further and develop a truly anti-racist environment at USD. Throughout my own career, I've felt that I've done as much as possible to advance this work. But after witnessing again the dehumanization of Black Americans play out before us this year, and with the murders of George Floyd, Breonna Taylor, Ahmaud Arbery, Rayshard Brooks, just to name a few, we have to stop and reflect on how our country has failed Black Americans. Personally, I've tried to reflect on my own commitment to this work and recognize that I too have fallen short at times in my own leadership. Today, however, I believe we should feel empowered because this is a liminal moment in history. Black Lives Matter is not just a slogan or a political statement. It's both a movement and a moment that presents us with an opportunity to move this work ahead, maybe in ways we didn't think were possible previously. Unlike just a few years ago when most Americans were debating whether it was appropriate to make the statement that Black Lives Matter, today the vast majority of Americans agree that Black Lives Matter precisely because most people now acknowledge that they have not seemed to matter for so long in this country. As a contemporary Catholic university, we must seize this moment and lead. Over the summer, I, like so many of you, have been engaging our Black colleagues, students, and alumni at USD. And what I've heard has been both sobering and a wake-up call for me and for our entire campus. We don't need more data or evidence to prove that we have much work to do at USD or that institutionalized racism exists on our campus. We need only to truly listen to the lived experiences of Black students and colleagues to know all that we really need to know. If those among us who have suffered what one might call 1,000 little cuts for just being Black on this campus, we have an obligation to do better, and we must answer the call of this moment in history and work together to live out our vision as an engaged contemporary Catholic university where innovative changemakers address humanity's urgent challenges. Racism is an urgent challenge, and as a university we must rise to the moment. We must ask ourselves, what can I do as an individual? What can we do in my own department, school, or division? What can we do as a global Torero community? Universities are a place where complex and sensitive issues should be thoughtfully discussed and considered, and USD is committed to ensuring ongoing dialogue and discovery, fostering an inclusive community, and advancing educational equity. In a letter to our Black faculty, Provost Baker outlined a series of steps we are taking to raise awareness, discuss and confront racism and other forms of hatred. If we are to bring about real and lasting institutional change, our investment in this movement must be collective and interconnected in ways that empower solutions across all disciplines and administrative units. USD recently announced the appointment of Dr. Richard Charles Miller as Interim Vice Provost for Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion. Dr. Miller's investment in diversity, equity, and inclusion spans more than 43 years of productive work in higher education as a professor, a dean, a director, and finally as a senior vice president. I'm thrilled he's joined our university community, and he assumed his new role this month on September 1st. As we continue this search for a Chief Diversity Officer, we decided to elevate the position Dr. Miller now holds to the rank of Vice Provost. He and the person who permanently fills this critical position will serve on my strategic leadership team to ensure a senior-level integrated approach to this important work. In this role, Dr. Miller will help us create a new strategic plan for diversity, equity, and inclusion at USD and incorporate it into the university's Envisioning 2024 strategic plan. This plan will advance and sustain the ongoing development of a number of different things: recruitment of faculty, senior leadership, and students of color, our campus climate, professional development, leadership initiatives, retention practices, community work as an anchor institution, and the promotion of scholarly work and research that advances this agenda. In the past few months, Provost Baker and the deans have announced the establishment of an anti-racism task force. They are working to expand our anti-racism programming on campus, including diversity and inclusion training, launching a speaker series inviting Black scholars to campus through an anonymous gift to the university, expanding diversity activities and initiatives on campus, engaging in ongoing and open dialogue on equity and race, and are in the process of creating a campus-wide awards program that will recognize exceptional service to diversity and inclusion work. Last spring, you may recall the Senate also addressed equity and access by developing a new test optional admissions policy for undergraduate admissions beginning this fall. In addition to the good work from the Division of Academic Affairs, the Center for Catholic Thought and Culture, along with campus ministry, has announced a lecture series on racism and white supremacy. The Finance Division, in cooperation with the Mulvaney Center, has been working to create better procurement practices, with an emphasis on minority, women, and veteran-owned businesses. Student Affairs has instituted mandatory diversity and inclusion training for all incoming students. And Admission is working to expand the Torero Promise to public high schools in San Diego County, which has led to what appears to be shaping up as the most diverse first-year class in our history. These are just a few of the initiatives that have begun in the past year. This work is, however, not just the responsibility of our faculty, administration, and students. Our Board of Trustees is fully committed. For example, in just the past few months, the Board has taken its own steps. These steps include, in early May, the Board elected the first African American to serve as the Vice Chair of our Board, Dr. Constance Carroll. They've diversified the Trusteeship Committee and made a commitment to place a special emphasis to continue their efforts to diversify the membership of the entire Board. They've raised the funds necessary to fully endow the Black Alumni Scholarship Fund for the first time. They will focus their retreat at the end of the month on how they can play a deeper role in supporting the work of diversity, equity, and inclusion at USD. And they are in the process of reviewing and will likely adopt new environmental, social, and governance factors when making decisions regarding board membership, investment policies, and approaches to governing the university. These steps are just the beginning. This pivotal moment in our history calls for our university to do more than advocate for these changes, but to actually move them forward. A few of you know that I usually begin my mornings by reading the daily reflection of Father Richard Rohr, a Franciscan priest and founder of the Center for Action and Contemplation in Albuquerque, New Mexico. Recently, he has been reflecting on the concept of order, disorder, and reorder, something that we've come to understand all too well in recent months. Father Rohr reminds us that Jesus was the most profound example of disrupting order, as he brought a new order through radical disruption of the heart, a great spiritual migration. And similar disruptions and migrations are needed no less today. Whether we're confronting the disorder created by the volatility of a global pandemic, rising up against racial injustices, or facing daunting fiscal shortfalls, we have to first recognize and confront our own response to these challenges and ask ourselves, what can we do to improve before we are empowered and equipped to make a positive difference in the world? To address the urgent challenges ahead will require strength and resilience, especially as we enter what has the potential to be the most contentious and disruptive election cycle since the American Civil War. As we face this moment, let's keep in mind the words of President Abraham Lincoln, who called upon a troubled nation to evoke the better angels of our nature. During these challenging times, let us be gentle with each other, but be fierce in our efforts to combat humanity's urgent challenges. We must accept and recognize that while there is always more for us to do, we must meet each challenge with wisdom, determination, resilience, grace, and with a sense of solidarity and compassion that demonstrates a love for our fellow human beings. My favorite quote attributed to St. Francis of Assisi is, "Do what is necessary, then do what is possible, and soon you'll be doing the impossible." It is necessary today that we do the heavy lifting and hard work so that it is possible for us to address humanity's urgent challenges. And someday, we'll be able to accomplish what was once viewed as impossible, to become a beloved community where our highest ideals and aspirations are realized. Please know that I wish everyone the very best this academic year, and will continue to pray for good health and well-being for every member of our USD community. Godspeed, USD.